Welcome. Hi, this is Robin Nielsen, and it's really great to be here with you today. So today's topic is how our relationships affect PCOS, right? Affect our symptoms of PCOS. And so that's what we're going to talk about today on Tuesday Tip here on Facebook Live. And I'm in a new place, so I'm not really sure how the connection is going to be, so bear with me if it gets a little wonky, and it's just so great to see you here. So I would love to hear where you're from and maybe what your biggest PCOS challenge is, or your biggest challenge. You know, where are you struggling and how might I support you? So great. All right. You know, oftentimes we don't think about our relationships when it comes to healing, but it's really one of the biggest things that can make or break your health. It's huge. And, you know, when I think back to, you know, my relationships and how they've affected my health, it's been pretty profound, you know, and if you just take a minute to think about for yourself, like just, you know, take a moment and think about the relationships in your life right now. You know, are you married? Do you have a significant other who lives with you all the time? Are you living with some girlfriends? Do you have roommates? Do you have, you know, an outside group of girlfriends who you see regularly, who you communicate with? You go out and do things with them. You know, are you in school? Are you, you know, in classes with people? Do you live at home with your parents? You know, what is your situation? So just kind of take a minute to think about your relationships. You know, it made me sort of go back and think about, you know, days around the dinner table with my, you know, my parents and my grandparents, and sort of how food was treated, you know, for me and for my family. And hi, Jess, it's great to see you here. And I, you know, I got to thinking, wow, you know, we were pretty dysfunctional around food. I remember, you know, my grandparents on one side of my family, actually, yeah, just one side of my family was a little dysfunctional around food. And it wasn't just the holidays. It was when we would get together to eat. And my grandfather was, you know, the one who told all the stories. And he, you know, we had finished our meal well before he was ever finished, because he always had so many stories to tell. But I remember the food getting passed around, and if I didn't want more food, I was kind of shamed into taking more. Like, what's wrong? You don't like my cooking? You know, this is what my grandmother would say, or my grandfather would say, come on, you know, you need to eat more. You need to have more. You know, and I just remember I didn't want more, but I felt like I had to take more. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, you know, when it comes to relationships and, you know, trying to heal and, you know, kind of knowing what you have to do. But, you know, you've got all these people in your life, you know, including yourself, who is making it hard, you know, making it really hard to stay on your path. So I want you to think about, you know, who are the people in your life right now who are making it kind of hard? You know, in the detox program that I run, you know, we have a couple of detox programs. One is an adrenal detox program, and the others are, you know, regular PCOS detox program. And one of the things that we take a really close look at are our relationships, because relationships oftentimes can be toxic. So when you think about those people who are in your life pretty regularly, do they support you and your path? Do they support your opinion? Do they support what you want for yourself? Or are they constantly trying to push you in a direction that is kind of sabotaging? So what's coming up for you around that? Hey, Ria, great to see you here. Hi, Sarah Elizabeth from UK. Great to see you here. Yeah, thanks for showing up. So I want to read you something that is some communication that I get on a regular basis that really breaks my heart, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted this to be our topic for today, because it's so important. So if you can think of a wheel right now, so it's kind of your wheel of healing, right? I'm going to type this in right here. I call it kind of the wheel of healing, or the wheel of health, right? You can call it whatever you want, or, so wheel of healing, wheel of health. So you've got yourself in the middle, right? And then you've got all the spokes, right? All the different things that really contribute to whether you feel well or whether you feel sick, right? And every day is different, right? Some days you get more support than others, and our bodies and our minds are always in a different place every day. But the spokes on this wheel are maybe things like food, right? What food you eat today, for instance. And some days you might be able to tolerate some foods, while other days you can't tolerate those foods. It really depends on a lot of other factors, right? Whether you've had good sleep the night before, how much movement you're doing, what type of movement, kind of the demands, what are the demands on you? So the food varies, right, from day to day. And then the nutrients, right? What nutrients are you taking in to support your body for healing? Right? And then what toxins have you been exposed to? And that could be toxic relationships, it could be toxic chemicals, it could be, your own body waste, right? That you're not able to metabolize as well as you could. But, toxins are one of the spokes on the wheel that you have to address every day to feel well. Another spoke on the wheel might be movement. How are you exercising? How are you moving your body today? How is that supporting your healing or not? Right? Sleep. Oh my gosh, sleep is huge, right? Sleep is another spoke on the wheel that really impacts how you're feeling. And then there's relationships. Relationships is another spoke on the wheel, right? And here at Insulite, we call it's our element number 5. It's our support community, but it can be two completely separate things. So it can be relationships, can be one spoke on the wheel, and support, right? Where do you get your support from? Who supports you? What supports you to stay on your healthy healing path? That can be a completely different spoke on the wheel. And so for this program, this talk, I really wanted to focus on your relationships, and it's all of your relationships. So it's your relationship with yourself. You can be your own worst critic, right? Yes, I know I can be my own worst critic, right? You've got that little voice in your head, telling you that you're not good enough. Go ahead, just have it, right? What have you got to lose? The day's a waste anyway. I already blew it earlier in the day, so I'm just gonna blow the rest of the day. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. I'm a loser, right? All these things, right, that we tell ourselves. So our relationship with ourselves has to improve. Right? Like one of the best ways to improve your relationship with others, or your relationships with others, is to improve your relationship with yourself. I want to see a big thumbs up if you agree with that, right? You have to improve your relationship with yourself. You have to love yourself before others can love you. And that's hard when you're feeling terrible. Right? When you feel like crap, that old FLC, you don't love yourself. You don't feel like loving yourself. And so it blocks your ability to heal, right? So when we acknowledge that and we become more aware of where we are with loving ourselves or not, then we can start to change the behavior. And you have to start with yourself, again, because if you don't love yourself, it's hard for others to love you. If you don't love, respect yourself, set boundaries, right? So if I had some boundaries when I was younger at the dining room table, I would have said, no, thank you. I'm full. And however my family took that was their problem. I know that now, right? But as a kid, I didn't know that. I didn't know that their feelings are their problem. I thought I had to do something to make sure that they didn't feel bad about my decision. But from this day forward, I'm giving you permission to stick up for yourself, and how others feel about your decisions for yourself are their problem. So let me read this to you. This came in, I think, just yesterday. So I'm going to protect the woman who sent it by not giving you all the details, but it was in response to my email that I sent yesterday, the day before. It's serious and I'm serious. I'm very serious about symptoms of PCOS because a lot of times we don't do something soon enough and the symptoms just get worse and our life gets worse. So if you're here listening to this program today, I just want to applaud you for showing up, right? Way to go. Way to rock it. So this was an email I got. She says, I'm 22 years old and I'm an undergraduate student in my senior year. And not too long ago, I had a breakdown of my own. I have PCOS and every day is a struggle. Every day. There are no breaks from feeling irritated, weak, like my bones hurt, cranky, and that's a good day. My gynecologist doctor is a specialist. She was the one who diagnosed me with PCOS and was helpful in explaining PCOS. But my PCP is not. My PCP practically blames me for being anxious and overweight, yet I'm feeling an uphill battle alone. My family doesn't understand, and neither do my friends, nor do they care to understand. So when I say alone, I mean alone. The email you sent was inspiring in regards to the truth, with everyone around me saying negative things or brushing PCOS off like it's nothing. I start to think that they're being truthful and I'm over-exaggerating. Your email, the one email, has strengthened my truth, and I want to thank you for that. I'm overwhelmed with the symptoms and am a little lost. I appreciate your help and hope you have wonderful days to come. So I just really applaud you for not only reading the email, but then sort of understanding your position within that. So thank you so much to the beautiful woman who shared that, because that's pretty powerful stuff, right? So she was really explaining sort of her situation, and that, you know, number one, we feel like we're not believed, we feel like we're hypochondriacs, or we're made to feel that way, right? And I have to say, you know, for myself, I get a little bit intolerant of myself. If I complain about something more than twice and I don't do something about it, I'm kind of being a hypochondriac, right? I'm just complaining and I'm not taking any action. But if I actually take action, that's sort of what motivates me. I hear myself complaining over and over, and I'm like, what in the heck? You know, do something, right? So if I do something and I take action, now I feel happier because I'm taking action. And I also gain this incredible confidence because I'm taking action. So taking action builds confidence, and it sort of stops the negative self-talk, right? And it sort of brings in some self-love, and it stops the whole hypochondriac thing. So I think that PCOS and the symptoms of PCOS, they're not our fault. And I think that's a big reason why we oftentimes want a diagnosis when we really don't need a diagnosis to tell us we're feeling bad, right? We do not need a diagnosis to tell us that we're not feeling well. We can see, we can feel, right, that things aren't going well. I mean, I had acne on my face, my chest, my back. I didn't need somebody to tell me I had acne on my face, my chest, and my back. I knew it. I felt terrible about it. But we do have to take responsibility. Okay? So you're given a set of genes, and you have to learn how to support yourself around what you're given. So it's an area of science called epigenetics. And epigenetics is really how all the lifestyle factors influence your genes. And that's really the biggest cause of PCOS is our lifestyle. So it's kind of what we learned from our parents, our grandparents, whoever raised us, right, our families, how to take care of ourselves. That's the epigenetic influence. And if your health is not where you want it to be, you've got to change the environmental factors that are influencing your health, right? So I'm getting a little bit off topic here. But the bottom line is your family doesn't know what's best for you. Your friends do not know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for you. And I was talking about, kind of being a hypochondriac. That gets old, right? It gets old for yourself. I mean, for me, I have no tolerance for myself complaining. If you are complaining over and over and over, it's kind of you're not taking responsibility for the situation that you're in. So you do have to stop complaining. You do have to take action. If your friends are tired of you complaining, it's legitimate, right? Take responsibility. But that being said, when you, I think one of the biggest things that happens for us is that it kind of revolves around food oftentimes, is that we're always pressured into eating something that we don't want to eat or that we know that's not good for us, right? So if we go out with friends, oftentimes it's to pizza or to, things that just don't support us, and there's so much pressure to eat that. So you have to be pretty diligent and pretty committed. And over time, your friends will understand and they'll start to get it, right? But I think that you have to start reassessing who you're hanging out with, who your friends are, who support you and who doesn't support you. And while you're healing, you want to start thinking about who to hang out with, right? If your parents don't get it, then you may need to limit your time with them. If your family doesn't get it and they're constantly negative around you and telling you it's all in your head, which of course it is, it's part of your brain. It's everywhere, right? Then you have to start limiting your time with them because right now they're toxic for you, right? You know what you want and need, and so you have to direct that. And here's what happens. So I want to get back to the action part of things, because when you take action, you actually become happier and more self-confident, and that shows the people in your life that you've taken responsibility and you do know what in the heck you're doing. And so what starts out as this kind of victim place where you're feeling like, you've got all these horrible symptoms, you don't know why you have them, you're constantly complaining, nobody thinks that they're real. You now turn it around and you start feeling better. Maybe you release some weight, maybe you're happier, you're getting stronger, you're looking better, right? Then people start to take you seriously. And they're kind of looking and say, oh my gosh, what is she doing? I want some of that, right? And I remember in my family, I did two things. So this is, when I was a mom. I still am a mom, but when I had teenage boys at home, my husband was really overweight. I still had bad acne. I was so tired. Our older son had really bad acne. And I finally realized, holy cow, I have all the power over our food. I do all the grocery shopping and I do all the cooking. Take charge, girlfriend, right? So I had a family meeting and I said, you know what? I have decided that I am not going to bring anything home, any food home that you can't eat at any time, right? So I'm not going to bring any bad food home. And if you want it, you can go out and get it yourself, right? So we started making these changes and my husband agreed to eat the lunch that I made for us every day because we work together. And in a month, my husband lost 20 pounds. The family agreed to make these changes. Their friends brought over the Taco Bell and the McDonald's and the food that they had to have in their liters of soda. but 3 of their friends became really healthy eaters because the Nielsen family were crazy, right? They have this whole different idea about how to eat. So we had to be crazy for a little bit before we were believed. And I had this idea that I was going to get hot and sexy, and my husband was going to want to come along because he wasn't going to want to feel all fat and frumpy if his wife was all hot and sexy, right? I didn't want to have to nag at him. That's a terrible relationship. I had to do it for myself. I had to show the world that I was pretty darn fabulous before anybody would believe that this crazy healthy path I was on was for real. So what I'm getting at is that we start out as the victim oftentimes in our relationships, but then it turns around and we become the leader. So when you start to be really committed to your healthy path, it is incredible how others will start to pay attention and turn their thinking around and start asking you questions. So instead of them forcing things on you that you know you don't want and that don't support you, right? They now back off and they say, well, gee, how did you do that? Like, how did you clear up your skin? How were you able to get pregnant? I'm having trouble, right? How did you start a family? You know, how did you lose all that weight? And you're healthy and you have all this great energy. How do you look so fabulous, right? So it's not easy, right? But you just have to, I don't know, kind of go into hibernation from those people who don't have your back. And you have to find that new community that does have your back. Of course, we here at Insulite, we have your back, right? So you can hang out with us anytime. And we will support you wherever you are. But I'm not very supportive around a lot of whining and complaining over and over. So if you do that, I'm going to call you on it, right? Are you sort of getting the picture about how we need to sort of remove ourselves from the toxic people, including our own toxic mind? We have to become more what's called the watcher. So it's kind of cool. There are a lot of people explain it different ways, but according to Martha Beck, who wrote this really great book called The 4-Day Win, and it's really all about dieting and losing weight from a psychological perspective. She talks about the 3 different people who are within us as the, let's see, it's the watcher, the dictator, and the wild child. So the dictator is that, you know, awful critic, right, that carries around the little whip telling us that we're not good enough all the time. And the wild child is the person within us who goes crazy, right? Eats all the wrong things, does all the wrong things, just can't abide by those strict rules anymore. We've got the dictator, we've got the wild child, and then we have what's called the watcher or the observer. And that's that. So I think that human beings are the only species that can actually observe what they're doing or what they're thinking. So the watcher is the observer. Have you ever heard someone say, maybe when you're having a craving, right, and you go for the ice cream when you know, darn it, you just shouldn't have that ice cream. But then if you go up here and you're looking at yourself from up here and you're watching yourself eat the ice cream, you're saying, well, okay, well, she's eating ice cream, right? Like there's no judgment around it. There's just this watcher, this observer. And it's kind of cool because if you learn to grow the abilities of the watcher in you, so you have this awareness around your ability to observe yourself, then this awareness, your awareness just keeps increasing, and no longer do you respond so emotionally to everything, right? And, just go for the wrong food choices or cave into peer pressure or whatever it is. Now you've got this watcher or observer who's saying, I'm just going to take a second and think about this. What feelings are coming up for me? Do I really want that? Would taking a walk serve me better? Maybe I just need a hot bath. Maybe I need to separate myself from this person who is really giving me some bad energy right now. Right? I just need to separate myself from them and go take a walk or just distance myself from them a bit. So when you start engaging that watcher or the observer, all of a sudden now you can make better choices, right? And that's a really powerful relationship. So I'm really impressed by those of you who write to me and tell me what's going on for you. I love that because it gives me information about how I can better support you. And just lately I've gotten, so much feedback about how we're not believed, like our problems are not believed by the community who we've surrounded ourselves with. We're told that we're hypochondriacs or that we don't really have those problems or, you're the only one who has that problem. And so that's where you've really got to find a community. You've got to find those friends who support you, who understand, but don't support you to stay stuck, but support you to better yourself, right? To better yourself. And the people you surround yourself with honor your choices. Like maybe your choices aren't always the best, but they don't pressure you into making choices that aren't for you or that don't resonate with you. Does that make sense? Do you have an example that you would like to share? How you've overcome this? Like, have you sort of gotten away from friends who don't support you in a really great way? I certainly have. If you're not a great friend of mine, you're out, right? I try to be a really good friend. I try to be a really good listener. But if you don't support my choices, too bad for you, right? And I think one really key concept that we have to remember is that we are not responsible for anyone else's feelings. I'm going to type that in because I know as women, that's a hard concept, right? So I'm going to say you are not responsible for anyone else's feelings. You're not, right? That doesn't mean that you cannot be a good person. Not at all, right? You still have to be a decent person. You have to be a good person, but you don't have to take care of other people, right? So if you ask me if I want to do something and I don't want to do it, and I say no, I am not responsible for how you feel. You're responsible for how you feel, right? Nothing I did was hurtful. I'm making a choice for myself. So if I'm going out to dinner with you and you say, hey, let's have a glass of wine. And I say, I'm just really not feeling that tonight. I just don't want to have a glass of wine tonight. And you don't honor that. You keep pressuring me, right? Number one, that's not all. But number two, I'm going to say no again. And if your feelings are hurt, that's your problem. That's your weather, right? You're having a little bit of a storm over there. It has nothing to do with me. So I think as women, we've got to get really clear on that. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this program is that you've got to get really clear on the fact that your decisions are your decisions. And, as long as you're not hurtful or mean or hurting other people, you cannot take any responsibility for how someone else takes your decisions for yourself. So if my grandparents didn't like the fact that I didn't want more food because my grandmother was going to feel hurt that her cooking wasn't good enough for me. That's her problem. As a child, that's a little bit difficult because they make it your problem, right? As a child, you just don't have the emotional wherewithal to deal with that. But certainly as an adult, you do. And it's not something that you're just going to be able to turn around and do. You're going to have to practice it, right? So I want some thumbs up for those of you who are going to do this, right? Who are going to stick to what it is you want for yourself, and you're not going to take on the other person's weather. Give me a thumbs up if you're going to do that. Okay. Jess says, my dad is always trying to do this, what I can eat when I'm with him. So it sounds like your dad is, clarify this for me, Jess. So what is your dad trying to do? Is he trying to tell you what to eat when you're with him? Is he kind of pushy that way? Let me clarify that. So Sarah says, I have them every morning. What is that you have every morning, Sarah? I think you commented while I was talking, and oh, here we go. Oh, I have smoothies every morning and I feel so much better, so I have more vegetables than fruit. Awesome. Me and my boyfriend are doing it together as he's supporting me. And we both go to gym together and I feel a lot better than I used to. I've made lifestyle changes also. That is so cool, Sarah. Oh my gosh, I love it. So you were able to get your boyfriend? Yeah, your boyfriend on board. Yeah. And I have to say, oh, your dad chooses what you eat and how much. Oh my gosh. So that's a really toxic relationship, right, Jess? So I'm hoping that you'll be able to turn this around a little bit and start saying no, and maybe have a conversation with your dad that you're going to be in charge of your life now, and you know, and ask, make a request. So let me give you a really awesome tool. So you can make a request of anybody for anything in your relationships, and they can say yes, they can say no, or they can counter. But in the meantime, you can do what you want, right? It's your life. So your request might be, Dad, I have a request. You can say yes, you can say no, or you can counter. I would like to be in charge of the food I eat, and I would like it if you could refrain from commenting when we have a meal together. What do you say? And then if he says, no, I'm not comfortable with that, I want to keep telling you what to eat, you can say, well, that's your choice, but I'm not going to listen anymore, right? My body, my life, right? Something, you know, whatever you want to say. And he can have his weather, but you're going to have to take a stand, and you can do that by making a request, right? So requests are really powerful tools of communication and relationships. Way to go, Jess. We're here for you. And then I want you to post how it went for you, okay? We're going to keep supporting you to keep trying. And Sarah Elizabeth says, yes. So it's great. And here's something really cool, Sarah Elizabeth. If, you know, for all of us, you know, if your boyfriend doesn't go along with how sexy you're becoming and how healthy you are, you're going to start to grow apart, right? So who wants to be around somebody who doesn't want to be healthy? Oh my gosh, it's such a liability. It's so much work, right? They always feel terrible and they're no fun. So as you start to get healthier, you're gonna start surrounding yourself with people who are like that, right? Who are like that. That's why it's really fun if you want to surround yourself with like-minded people. You know, go join a walking group, right? People who like to get outside and walk because they're going to be healthier. You know, join a group who loves nature or who likes to get outside, or, you know, find those people who you want to be like, and then go be with them. You know, if you're really sort of in a rut and you're feeling terrible, don't surround yourself with those people, right? Because you'll stay there. Surround yourself with people who are where you want to be. And then slowly you'll start to come up. right? And my husband, he got with the program, right? He got with the program. I really, I wanted that more than anything. And I was going to lead the way. I've had a lot of clients over the years, and, the wife always says, well, my husband doesn't eat well. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. And I said, that's his choice, right? You have to do it for yourself. You have to lead the way, and then people start to notice, right? And then they start asking for your advice. I'm sure you may have been in that position already. People are seeing what you're doing, and they're starting to ask questions. Here's the really cool thing. When I transitioned my family, I had that family meeting. I didn't bring junk food home anymore. The kids, my kids' friends were bringing junk food over. 3 of their friends became really healthy eaters. Who would have guessed? They started asking me questions. What is it you're eating? What do you think about this, Mrs. Nielsen? And now they're in their 30s. And they give me, it was so cool. They give me recommendations on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh my God, that was from when they were teenagers and they came to our house. And I thought everybody was going to think we were crazy. I guess not, right? We were the leaders. So you are a leader, whether you know it or not. You were given PCOS or symptoms of PCOS for a reason. Now you need to take responsibility and bring yourself up out of the muck, and then you're going to be so friggin' passionate about it that you're going to help others do the same. Oh, so cool, right? All right, so just really great to have you all here today. I'm just, so happy to spend time with you, and hope that you got just a few tips and tools that you can use. And start, really being a little bit more picky about your relationships, who you hang out with, how you nourish your relationships, and especially your relationship with yourself. Start loving yourself more, being the watcher or observer more instead of acting on emotion, being picky about who you hang out with, and really standing up for yourself. All right, great. So great to be here with you today. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone.